Sam Strains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to the very last video of Diesel Month. So yeah, a little bit sad, I'm going to miss it, but equally I have missed running steam engines on the layout, so I'm really looking forward to getting some of those going, and I know there are a few of you out there that feel the same way, so yeah, looking forward to that. But like I say, it's not completely done yet. We have one more video, which is this one, and today I'm going to be looking at this, which is the Heljan Class 128, and it is actually a DMU technically. Not a DMU for passengers though, a DMU for parcels I believe, and even though they were called DMUs, I suppose multiple unit is a little bit of a misnomer because they did tend to run around on their own, although I have seen a couple of pictures of them coupled to a wagon or something, which presumably would have also held parcels and that sort of thing. But yeah, a few months ago I got loads and loads of emails about this model from, I think there was 4 or 5 people actually saying, Sam, go and look at Hatton's, they're selling these DMUs for a ridiculous price, and I went and looked and they were selling them for a ridiculous price. I think I got this for £52 brand new, and I just thought at the time, you know, I don't know what this is going to be like, how good can it be for that kind of money, but I'm really glad I did buy it. So let's put this down and let's have a look at what this one's like then, shall we? And here we are again then for the second time ever on this channel looking at the Heljan packaging. You can't really deduce a lot from the packaging, you can't even see the model in fact properly because it is so well packed in there, but I will very briefly show you the end of the box, which has Class 128 on it of course, 89921, which I presume is the model number, and then you've got M55990, which I think is the running number, and then after that DPUBSYPDC, yeah, don't know what that means, no idea at all. Anyway, yeah, that doesn't really matter, let's get this model out then. Just take that outer sleeve off, and take this out, if I can slip it out here. Yeah, it comes out fairly easily. Okay, we've got the instruction manual, which I will show you very briefly. Right, so this is the 8900 number series, so there you have it. A little bit about the engine and caring for it and all that sort of stuff. Very useful to read if you've not had a Heljan loco before, and on the back a little bit of history about the locos, so if you want to pause that and read it, feel free to, but I will give you a bit in a second. And inside you have, wow, a very elaborate exploded diagram as you can see there, and it's all very well numbered and everything, so if you ever need any spare parts for them, a very quick glance at this will tell you exactly what you need, and that's very, very good. So yeah, quite impressed by that. Now let's get on to the packaging then. Wow, just look at this, there's foam all over it. You don't get that with Hornby and Bachmann, and yeah, very well packed. And I must say that even though this packaging was in place, I still had to glue a load of parts onto it. But yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, we have a little detail pack, which I believe also had couplings in it, but I've taken those out. As you can see, you've got actual metal coupling hooks there, as you can see, or chain link couplings, I should say. That's a nice thing to have, isn't it? They do look like they're metal to me, which is brilliant. So just stick that back on there. Okay, and let's take the outer sleeve off. Right, and I've also noticed that I've put a coupling in here, one of the big Hornby decouplings, and there's a reason for that because I want to demonstrate something, so I'll just stick that up there for the time being. Now, there's something a little bit unusual about this particular piece of packaging, because normally you just open the end like this and you'd be able to lift it up, but not with these. With these you also have to take out the sides, which is quite an interesting way to do it, but I suppose it does protect things nicely. Okay, let's get this out then. Here we go. Wow, and the first thing that always hits you is the weight. It weighs an absolute ton for a model of this size. It is absolutely mighty. And as you can see, a very nicely detailed thing. So I'm going to get onto the detail and things in just a second, but there is something I wanted to demonstrate, as I hinted at already. So I'm going to plug the coupling in like this so that you can see what I'm demonstrating. So, oops, bear with me a second while I do this. Okay. Now obviously it's not all that important that you have a coupling on this because it is just a single unit and they would have run on their own. But look at this, there is no way that you can fit a coupling to this because there's just so much detail on the front here. Now that really isn't the issue because you could fit a slimmer coupling, and certainly these big D couplings are quite outdated now, so I'm just going to take that off. But look, even without a coupling plugged in, you can see when I turn the bogie, look, the coupling is turned the opposite way to the way it should be going, which means that anything you couple to that will immediately derail regardless of the coupling you're using, because as you can see it's the pocket that's moving there. So that was infuriating to me. I just thought, how on earth could this have passed your testing and things? What I've done on the other side then is I've taken off a load of this detail, which pained me to do, and I've also cut away at the buffer beam so that, as you can see, this coupling now swings all the way across without being turned around, and that was necessary if you wanted to couple anything to it, as far as I could see. Yes, it's true that some modelers have a lot less tight curves than I do, but I would say that I think I could fairly say that most people are going to be running on 4th radius curves or less. And so this model isn't really great, to be honest, if you want to just get it out the box and couple it to something and run it. Yes, for realism's sake, you're not going to be coupling things to it most of the time, but if you wanted to, yeah, you're going to need some serious modification. Anyway, here we go with a little bit of history on them then, and a couple of shout-outs as well. Here we go. So hello to Sir Mugman, Christopher Brown and the Ellesmere Model Railway Club. Thank you very much for getting in touch. So the Class 128 was introduced in 1959, and the class typically appeared as single car units specifically for parcels. These were necessary in areas where no regular passenger services were available, or in places where the scheduled station stops were not long enough for the loading or unloading of parcels. Instead, these single units could work independently and flexibly without being tied to passenger trains. 10 were built over about 2 years, but sadly none were preserved. The last was withdrawn in 1991. So there it is then, the very lovely Heljan 128, and I must admit the detail on this is very, very impressive, especially for the price, because, you know, £52 is quite close to the price that you would pay for a Hornby Railroad locomotive, railroad diesel, certainly within £10 or so. So when you consider that, when you put it like that, it really is very impressive. I must say though, when I first got this out of the box, I did encounter 1 or 2 quality issues with the separately fitted detail. As you can see with the underframe, some of those parts are a little bit on the wonky side, and as you can see they do flex when you touch them. And there was one part, I can't remember what part it was, I think it was this part here, which was completely hanging off, which I had to glue immediately straight out of the box. And also these little boxes on the side of the bogies, I think there was at least 3 of those which had come off in the packaging, which had to be glued on. So yeah, when I first got this, it did strike me as being quite cheaply made, which I suppose it must have been for £52. But at least they're selling it cheaply, because there are certain model manufacturers, we won't mention, which wouldn't have sold this cheaply, despite it clearly being quite a cheaply made model. And also one of the pickups, it's not on this side I don't think, but I will try and get a close-up of it. One of the pickups was completely bent round, and it's still like that now, which I'm going to try and fix before I run this. But apart from that, you know, the weight, the quality of it, and also the performance, which you're going to see in a moment, is extremely good for the money. Okay, let's have a look at the paintwork then. Quite a basic paint scheme, this one, just in the British Railways blue, but as you can see there is a lot of printed detail on this, so let's have a look at it. Here you've got the running number M55990, and under there you've got a little bit of loading information. It says load not to exceed 10 tons, evenly distributed, and then a little bit about the tail load there. So yeah, very nicely applied and clearly legible, as you can see. And there are lots of other printed parts, including the parcel service text on the side there. You've got the little logos. And then of course you've got the separately painted door handles, that kind of thing, handrails on the side. The handrails on the side are just made of plastic, but if we look around at the cabs, as you can see, those do appear to be made of metal. This particular cab that we're looking at now does have the exhausts on the end, which is quite interesting, as long as the head code there, which this one is 3G48 it looks like. And yeah, while we're around here, I will show you that this does have sprung buffers. This is the cab end that I cannibalised so that I could put a coupling on it. But as you can see, the other cab has a lot of detail there, especially on the buffer beam, which is basically as it was. I've just trimmed those little vacuum pipes a little bit. But apart from that, that is exactly how it came, which is very, very impressive. And of course, yes, lots more handrails there, which are made of metal. Inside the cabs you can see there's a small amount of detail, none of it's painted or anything like that unfortunately, but you do have to peer quite closely at this to get a look at the cabs, so maybe that's not such a bad thing after all. As you've already seen the underframe, I'm not going to talk about this for long, but most of it is painted and you've got a lot of pipe work and things under there, which does look very, very effective while she runs. And yeah, I think that's one of the best underframes I've ever seen on a diesel, that's for sure. As you can see, the bogies are quite nicely moulded as well, plenty of detail there. You can clearly see the suspension springs and everything, as you'd expect, and also the axle boxes are painted up into the yellow and red, which is very nice to see. The roof is painted grey, as you can tell, and again quite nicely moulded, but also quite basic, but that's prototypical, so that's fair enough. Right, well, I think that's about it for the detail. As you can tell, a very nicely detailed model, and certainly a very, very good value model for what you pay. Plenty of detail on there. Of course, the quality could have been improved a little bit with this, but certainly the amount of detail leaves not a lot to be desired, to be honest. Okay, let's get this down onto the track then, and see how she performs. Okay, so there's the 128 down onto the track. It's been about 20 to 30 minutes since I signed off with the last section, and I have managed to fix that broken pickup, but I did find that all of the detailing on the bogies is sort of very weakly clipped together, so when you take it apart it just falls to bits. So the parts that will never need to come apart again I've actually just glued together to save time in the future. Yeah, it is done. It is quite shoddily put together, I must say, the detail, but then the mechanism I noticed was very nice and sturdy, so that's good news. So I'm hoping she's going to run nicely, and I sort of know that she will because I've seen her run before. I've coupled her up to a little utilities van. It's actually the Thomas and Friends one, but that was the one that looked most like the ones I'd seen in the photographs. So anyway, let's get this tested then. It does have lights, which I will show you later on while she's running. But for now, here's a little bit of juice on the controller, and we'll see how she does. It is all-wheel pickup and all-wheel drive, which is excellent news, and as you can see, the slow speed performance is really very, very good. I did notice that sometimes she would stop on the express points, which I'm going to test now, which is why she's going all the way across here. But no, she seemed to have gotten away with that quite nicely. Let's bring her back again. I suppose it might be, now that I've repaired the broken pickup, I suppose that will have improved things for her. Let's see if she gets over it this time. Yeah, actually that's very, very good. The only thing I will say on the performance is you have to cannibalise it a little bit just to get it to go around curves. I suppose if you didn't want to couple anything to it, you wouldn't. I think you'd probably be okay, but you know me, I like to couple things. I like to run more than one unit at a time. And yeah, of course, as soon as I saw that photo of a utilities van or something coupled to them, I used that as an excuse to fit a coupling and put a little wagon on there. So here we go then, let's get her started. The very lovely Heljan Class 128. It's not without its issues, but for £52, what can you really complain about? You can't complain at all. And today, because it's the last video of the month, I'm going to be running on the other lines a couple of engines that I've not shown very much of this month. So let me know in the comments if there are any Class 40 fans out there. I'm sure there will be a few. Not shown a lot of the Class 40, so there she goes, with a goods train, as you can see, looking very, very nice. And on the inner line we have a Deltic with a passenger train, and let me know if there are any Deltic fans in the comments. I'm sure there will be a lot more actually, because the Deltic's very popular. But there she goes, enjoy the running session and see what else you can spot. There you go, thought I'd treat you to a look at the Deltic, just while we wait for the 128 to turn up. She might be coming around the curve by now, so I'll turn you round. Right, well, the lights are still on, but she has stopped, so I'm going to try and investigate, but I can't do a lot while she's back behind this bookcase, so apologies for the sloppy camera work. I'm just going to give her a nudge. Oh yeah, right, I think she has derailed. 1 second then, let me try and fix it. Right, well, she's up and running again, but I did notice that she did it a second time off camera, so I've taken the bookcase out, which you'll see in a second, and we're going to observe together and see if it happens again. But normally the power of observation stops things from going wrong, until you're not looking again, of course, and then it happens again. So let's try. It's just there, that's where she stopped before. But for now it seems it's problem solved, so let's carry on and hope it doesn't happen again. I must admit though, when she's on the track and not derailing, she is a very beautiful runner. It is just a shame that the detail gets in the way a little bit, but yeah, I don't think it can be that now, because as I say, I've trimmed what needed to be trimmed. So, odd. I suppose it's possible that the utilities van that I've coupled to it was causing the issue, because it has got quite a large wheelbase. But I think it was the front bogie of the 128 which came off the track, so I don't see why that would be the case. I don't know. Could just be one of those things. I've straightened up the track best I can, so we'll just have to hope. In fact, you might be able to see it here if it happens again. Nope, it didn't happen again. Okay, it's just one of them things then, I suppose. I'm hoping you might be able to get a glimpse of the lights. They are fairly bright, and you do seem to have interior lights as well, which is nice. So the cabs are lit. Shall I dim the lights so that you can see it? I'll give it a try. Right, I've darkened it a little bit, put the main lights off anyway. Oh yeah, you can see that quite clearly, can't you? So definitely quite visible, those lights. Not so much on camera, but certainly in person, even with the lights on, you can see them quite clearly. Do a couple more nighttime shots and then I'll bring the lights back on. Yes, I don't very often dim the lights, do I? But it might be quite nice to do a running session with the lights down and use some logos with lights, because the layout does look quite interesting in the dark, with the illuminations and whatnot. Right, lights back on then so that you can actually see. That's better. Yep, that one is actually the Heljan Class 40. You might know that I've got the Hornby TTS version, which is actually the same. It's the same tooling, I think. But yeah, no, that was the Heljan version, because that runs okay on DC, of course. In fact, it's a shame, but I don't think I've run the TTS version this month. Oh well, I'll run it at some point for you. Here are my ratings then for the lovely Heljan 128. Detail 9 out of 10. Although it can be a little bit flimsy at times, it must be said that the detail is very impressive. And similarly with the performance, yes, you've got to do a little bit of modification to get it to run properly, and also, you know, pickup issues that came with it out of the box did sort of detract from the performance a little bit. But now that she's up and running, she runs beautifully smoothly and very quietly, and actually for a single car unit, she is extremely powerful and extremely heavy, so excellent marks there. Character 7 out of 10. It isn't one of my favourite diesels, I have to confess. I don't think it looks quite as nice as some of them, but again, it's partly my fault because I chose one of the uglier liveries, dare I say it. But, you know, again, it seems to be fairly accurate, of course, and I have seen worse, let's be honest. Okay, the build quality, yeah, not great to be honest. Well, the mechanism is very good, very well built. The detail is flimsy, as I say, and I had to do quite a few repairs on it straight out of the box. And as you can tell, even today, I'm still having to make little repairs to it because I noticed that pickup issue. So, a little bit cheap and nasty, if that's not too harsh to say. But then again, the price, which we'll move on to now, value for £52. What can you say? You can't complain at that. That is a fantastic value item, and to have to make a few little modifications, yeah, I don't mind doing that. I'm just glad it didn't cost £120 or something like that. Overall then, 7.91 out of 10, not a bad score at all, ranking her, let's see there, 33rd, just above the Manor Class by Bachmann, and below the Hornby Percy set. Alright then folks, well that's just about it for today, and that's it for Diesel Month. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget that Sam's Trains servicing is still cracking off, so if you've got any loco trouble whatsoever, do get in touch with me, drop me an email to samstrains@outlook.com, and I can very affordably fix up your locos for you and service them, or carry out other work, DCC fitting, I can fit lights, all that kind of good stuff. If you would like to check out the Facebook and Twitter pages too, those are at facebook.com/samstrains or twitter.com/samstrains. It would be very lovely to see you over there. Also, gosh, it's a list, isn't it? Here's a little update on the Wall of Fame. I have been printing again recently, so hopefully you'll see yours there if you sent one in. If you would like to send one in, again, you can email it to the same email address, samstrains@outlook.com, and I'll print them out and put them up for you. But for now, folks, that should just about do it. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I do love to have your company, as always, and I will see you all very soon. Cheers, everybody.